So Trump just got caught lying under oath in a federal courtroom. Not alleged lying, not disputed statements that reasonable people might understand in different ways, not testimony that lawyers will argue about in written briefs filed months from now, but clearly and provably false sworn testimony immediately shown to be untrue by documents. The evidence was already in the judge's hands at the exact moment the false statement was made, creating a direct confrontation where the judge gave a formal warning on the record. Trump ignored that warning and gave more false statements, which led the judge to order court officers to physically remove Trump from the courtroom after he refused to follow direct instructions from the judge to stop lying while testifying. This became the moment when the usually abstract legal consequences of perjury that people talk about in theory became immediate, visible, and unavoidable in the most dramatic way a federal courtroom can show. A defendant was physically escorted out of the room by court officers because his own behavior under oath gave the judge no legal choice but to remove him. And Warren Buffett, who has spent 7 decades understanding why the oath is the single most important rule in any legal case and what happens to every defense when someone breaks it, just explained why perjury is the one legal mistake that cannot be controlled, played down, or fixed. Because it does not just create a new charge to defend against. It destroys credibility, which is the base of every defense already being used. It tells the judge and later the jury that nothing the defendant says can be trusted and turns the judge from a neutral decision maker into a witness who personally saw criminal behavior by the somber defendant while sitting on the bench. This changes the entire case from a fair legal fight into something much more one-sided and far more dangerous for the person who took an oath and then broke it in front of the person with greatest power to punish that betrayal. It is very important to understand why this moment is completely different from every other legal issue in Donald Trump's long history of legal trouble. There is a wide range of legal problems, and then there is a smaller, more serious group where real recovery becomes almost impossible. Being caught lying under oath during your own testimony, with documents in the judge's hands, clearly belongs in that second group for reasons that go beyond the perjury charge itself. Trump has faced criminal charges, civil judgments, regulatory actions, congressional investigations, special counsel cases, and nearly every other kind of legal process used in the American system. Throughout all of this, his legal teams used every defense strategy available to powerful and well-funded defendants, challenging court authority, arguing evidence should not be allowed, claiming procedural mistakes, attacking the motives of prosecutors, claiming executive privilege, and offering innocent explanations for actions that prosecutors called criminal. These strategies work sometimes and fail sometimes because they are all based on argued facts and disputed meanings, where skilled lawyers can build reasonable alternative stories. But every one of these strategies depends on the defendant having enough credibility for the court to consider their version of events next to the prosecution's version, weigh both sides, and possibly decide that reasonable doubt exists. The moment Trump was caught giving false sworn testimony that was directly contradicted by documents, that basic credibility was not just hurt or weakened, it was erased. Not only for that one false statement, but for every statement made in that case, and every statement that might be made later. That is because the judge personally watched Trump choose to lie under oath when the truth was clear and required. And trust me, once you understand how the perjury was caught instantly, with the judge pointing out the contradiction on the record, why being physically removed from court matters legally beyond the drama, what Buffett meant about courts seeing perjury as a threat to their existence, why it requires immediate action instead of waiting for future charges, what federal perjury laws mean for new charges and sentencing risk, how the perjury finding destroys defenses built over years, what contempt of court adds to the immediate punishment and permanent damage, and why there is truly no recovery from documented perjury, because the record is permanent and credibility is completely and forever destroyed. You will understand why being dragged out of court after lying under oath is not just another legal problem to manage. It is the exact moment when the legal situation passes the point of no return. If you want deeper breakdowns of major legal and political events like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next update. Let's get started. This was not a charge being filed or an investigation being opened. This was the system reacting immediately and clearly to an oath being broken in the most direct way. Courts know how to respond. I will explain exactly how the perjury was caught in real time and why the events that led to Trump's removal show a defendant who chose to escalate rather than cooperate at every step. Trump was testifying under oath in a federal case when he made statements that the judge knew were clearly and provably false based on documents already accepted into the court record. The key point about being caught lying this way with the evidence already in the courtroom and already part of the official record is that there is no confusion about what happened. This was not a case where prosecutors later claimed testimony was false and still needed to prove it in future trials. The lie was proven immediately by the difference between what Trump said and what the documents showed to be true. That made the perjury not an accusation that needed future proof, but a fact the judge could decide right away based on the record in front of her. When a judge has sworn testimony and the documents that contradict it at the same time, the analysis becomes simple in a way legal questions usually are not. The statement was made. The statement was false. The document proves it, and the statement mattered to the case. The judge's first response was calm and professional, based on the court record. Instead of immediately finding contempt or ordering removal, the judge paused the case, pointed Trump to the exact document that contradicted his words, and gave him a chance to admit the problem, correct his statement, or explain the difference. This is normal court practice. When testimony conflicts with documents, judges usually allow the witness to explain because honest mistakes can happen and the record should show how the witness responded when faced with the evidence. So the judge's careful first response did not mean the situation was minor. It was standard procedure. Trump then made it far worse by continuing to repeat the false story instead of admitting the document showed otherwise. Choosing to keep lying after the judge directly showed the evidence changes the legal situation from serious to potentially disastrous. Federal perjury requires that the lie be intentional, not an honest mistake. Prosecutors must show the person knew the statement was false. When a witness keeps repeating a false statement after the judge has shown the document and clearly explained the problem, the claim of innocent mistake disappears. You cannot honestly say you were mistaken after being shown proof and choosing to ignore it. By continuing to lie, Trump made the perjury case much stronger, made the contempt problem worse, and left the judge with fewer and fewer choices. Buffett commented on the removal that same evening, explaining why perjury is treated more seriously than almost any other legal violation. He explained that every legal system depends on the belief that witnesses who take an oath tell the truth. If that belief fails, courts cannot hold trials, decide facts, or issue judgments. Because perjury attacks that foundation, courts respond to it more quickly and more harshly than to most other crimes. Someone accused of fraud can fight the case and ask the court to weigh both sides. But someone who lies under oath during that case tells the court that the oath means nothing to them. That means every statement they made under oath is now questionable, and every defense based on those statements is damaged. The loss of credibility caused by perjury is permanent and complete. Criminal defense depends on credibility. Lawyers try to make the defendant's story seem as believable as the prosecution's. That only works if the defendant is seen as honest. When a defendant is caught lying under oath in the same case where credibility matters most, that contest ends. Every past sworn statement becomes suspicious. Every future statement becomes hard to believe. Any defense based on the defendant's version of events collapses. After repeated false testimony, the judge's only real option was removal. Judges cannot allow lies to keep filling the court record. When a witness ignores warnings and keeps lying, the judge must either let the damage continue or remove the witness. Removal is not extra punishment. It is a necessary step to stop ongoing criminal behavior in the courtroom. Court officers enforcing that order are doing exactly what the system requires. Federal perjury charges now carry serious risk. Under federal law, each false statement under oath can be charged separately, with penalties of up to 5 years per count. Multiple false statements can mean multiple charges, and sentences can be added together. Judges who personally watch the defendant lie are rarely generous at sentencing. Contempt of court also brings immediate results. Judges can punish contempt right away with fines or detention. It also permanently changes how the judge views the defendant. Bail terms can be reconsidered. Requests for fairness or leniency are judged differently. The court's attitude shifts after direct defiance. Here is the full legal situation after the removal. Trump was physically removed after refusing to stop lying. Perjury was proven instantly by documents. Contempt was found. Federal perjury charges are now certain. Multiple counts are possible. Sentencing risk increases. Credibility is destroyed in this and related cases. The judge is no longer neutral. Buffett explained that perjury does not just add problems. It multiplies them by destroying trust. Perjury cannot be undone. The transcript records every lie. The contempt finding is permanent. The evidence is preserved. Future lawyers and courts can see it all. The defendant cannot deny it happened. The record shows continued lying after warning. The judge's actions prove the lies mattered. Every defense based on Trump's own explanations is damaged. Juries who learn about the perjury will view everything he says with doubt. Buffett explained that no legal team, no matter how skilled, can fix a defense after the judge personally sees their client lie under oath. Lawyers can argue law and challenge evidence, but they cannot argue against what the judge saw with her own eyes. This is the final reality. The oath was taken. The oath was broken. The system responded immediately. What happened is permanently on the record and cannot be managed or erased. This moment is different from all others because the judge personally witnessed it. That is why recovery is impossible.